People come from all walks of life. They all have lives they lead. Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hi everyone, welcome to Small Talk. If you're a reader like I am, one of the things you really enjoy is when you find that book that you just can't put down. Well, this book, can you see it? This book, The House Children, is one such book. I love it. I've just started reading it, but I have to stop and do other things, unfortunately. But my guest today is the author, the person who wrote this book, Heidi Daniele. Welcome to the show, Heidi.
Hi, Nancy. Thank you for having me.
Oh, and thanks for sending me this book. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
So can you give the viewers a little synopsis of the book?
Sure. It's based on a true story. I spoke to 5 women who were raised in the same facility. And the facility is an industrial school. And they were common throughout the UK, specifically Ireland, where they housed over 100,000 children over time in different institutions. Yeah. And the children were sent there on a variety of reasons, but primarily for being born out of wedlock. They were also children who were destitute. And frequently, if a mother passed away, the father was deemed incapable of raising children. And the children were therefore placed into one of these institutions. They were funded by the government, and they were run by the Catholic
nuns, the sisters.
The nuns. They were separated, the boys and girls. So if you were siblings and you had brothers, they would wind up in a different institution.
Right.
So I combined the stories, and I followed the one person that I could get the most documentation on, because I wanted the book to be as real as possible.
One of the things when I started reading it, and as it's written in the first person, I thought, well, this author really knows this. It reads like it's your story.
Oh, thank you.
So what inspired you to write it to begin with?
Well, I thought it was an important story because it's not commonly known. And you can clearly see how women have taking control through the years. When you look back, this is less than 100 years ago.
Right.
When a woman was pregnant, she was sent away. It was very shameful and forced to give up her child. And I think that's an important part of history. But I think you also have to understand what was happening at that time. So I read a lot of newspapers and I researched a lot about the era so that I could give a fair perspective. And the reason I was able to catch what I feel that you recognize is a very authentic mindset of somebody going through that was I actually had 3 women who lived this life speak to me. And what they did was they spent the night at my house, and instead of interviewing them, I listened to them reminisce. Right. And then I wrote everything down. And I thought that was a lot more valuable because they gave me clues and insight to things I could have never thought to ask them.
Right. Like some of the things I could relate to in the sense that I went to Catholic school and boys were on one side, the girls were on the other. And some of them, we had nuns. I didn't have many of them teaching them, but some of them were really nasty and, very, they would pick on the poor children and cater to the rich kids, which is kind of counter what their vows are. They take an oath of poverty, but it's very relatable. And then I'm thinking about, like, I'm in my 70s. So when I was a teenager, girls were still sent away if they got pregnant out of wedlock, So it's really, I think it's just an awesome read. And if anybody would like a copy, how would they go about getting it?
It's available on Amazon. There's actually, I think, 120 different venues online that you can buy it. Your local bookstore can get it because it's through a standard distributor. And a lot of libraries have it. I was fortunate that a lot of libraries picked it up. That's interesting that you say that about being a Catholic school student. I was one too, and I've heard from many that say similar to what you just said.
Yeah, it's just the way it was, unfortunately. Is this the only book you've written, or have you written others?
No, this is my first book. What I really like to do is research, and I've done that for other writers. It's just this story hit my heart, and I felt like I had to be the one to tell it. You know, I'm not so sure I would write another book. I really enjoy the researching. The writing's hard.
It's a lot of work, isn't it? Well, then some people think research is a lot of work, like I would, for instance, you know. Okay, can I ask you about you, a little bit more about you personally?
Sure. I did go to Catholic school. My mother is from Ireland, so I do have that personal connection.
Right.
I'm a grandmother of two beautiful children. I live in the Hudson Valley, which is a very pretty place in New York. We're not exactly on the river, but we have access to it, and we like to drive down and look at it. My husband and I, we like to go visit the little towns. We're foodies. We love to eat. We enjoy nature, a lot of hiking, more so now with COVID.
Yes.
And we just got registered for our appointments to get our first COVID shot. So we're excited about that.
Yeah. I haven't been able to register yet because the last I heard it's 77 and up, and you know, I'm going to be 73, so I'm not quite there yet. But yeah, good for you. So now COVID obviously has changed so many of our lives in so many different ways, right? Some for the better. Some people have been able to benefit from it, like as I have in doing the Zoom interviews, which is reaching out to people. I can't remember how we connected, but to be able to interview somebody who lives in New York, which I wouldn't have been able to do if we were doing it in person, right?
Yeah. Isn't it fascinating technology?
I love technology for those type of things when I can figure it out, of course. So what are some of your other interests now? Obviously you enjoy research and hiking with your husband, whatever. What are some of your other interests?
I love photography. I love genealogy. I took this COVID situation as an opportunity, and I took some research classes with Boston University for ancestry and DNA because I enjoy playing with that.
Yeah.
So I have tried to take advantage of being at home and utilizing my time in a valuable way. And since I do love history and genealogy, and I can't help but wonder, in the last great big pandemic, they didn't have the technology, like you said, how we can connect and how I can take a class and research. I mean, we are so fortunate in this era right now compared to what our ancestors went through. I also took up knitting because that's something they would have done. And I think like I might have some genetic memory because I'm pretty good at it.
All right. I love knitting and I love crocheting. Talking about how when the last pandemic, when it was like, it's interesting because somebody posted on Facebook, they're like, well, it's not like people are dying on the streets. And it's just like you said, because we have more access to medications, to doctors, hospitals, correct?
It is. That's so true, Nancy.
Yes, it's still a pandemic and it's still happening. Now,
it is. You still have to be careful.
Yes. Are people in your area being very good about wearing masks?
They are pretty good. There are standards here that we have to meet. You're not allowed to enter a store without a mask. All the floors in the stores are marked. Right. And they have a capacity limit. If you go into a store on Saturday, which I will totally avoid, I'm fortunate to be able to avoid it, but there's somebody there with a clicker counting how many people are coming in and how many are going out. Right. So I think primarily in our area, people are doing the right thing. There was a problem at after the holiday. Including my mom is 84 years old, and she wound up with COVID because she went to a family gathering that I did not attend, and one of the younger people had brought it home from college.
So
So there's that factor.
how's your mother now?
She's good. She recovered. She's good Irish stock, we'd say. It was tough. You know, it was 2 weeks and we were nervous, but she did recover well. I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
Good for her. One of the things I wanted to ask again is you talked about being Irish background, and have you taken that test? Send it in to gosh, I'm sorry, I've just gone.
Like the DNA, the 23.
Yes. Have you done
Oh
it?
yeah. Do you know? And I've been. I was fortunate with it because I go back to Ireland on occasion because my mother is from Ireland. I have a lot of first cousins over there, and I met other cousins, you know, a couple of generations removed
Yes.
through the DNA, and it was so much fun. It was so much, and one of them I met online, like we're doing now with Zoom. We connected, and she's also an author, and we said, let's Zoom and talk. And when we got on and we're looking, we're like, oh, I had the same chin as you. So it's kind of fun. I love doing that. Yeah.
Oh, marvelous. Yeah, I did mine, and my family is mostly from France and Spain. But then there's like a bit of Irish and a bit, a bit here, a bit of this and that, right? But mainly it's France and Spain, and it is fascinating, isn't it?
It's fascinating, and I love history, and my dad's from Germany, so that's like a whole nother ball game, you know? So I do a lot of that, a lot of the genealogy, and like I said, since I am first generation American, I'm fortunate to have those firsthand contacts in the other countries.
Right. Well, this has been great. I'm out of time. We're out of time, but just I want to just reinforce to everybody.
Thank you.
Get a copy of this book. It's really fascinating, by Heidi Daniele, and it's really a great read, and it's an easy read, and it's just, oh my gosh, I'm just loving it so much. I have a hard time, like I said, putting it down, but sometimes I absolutely have to. So anyway, just stay with me while I talk to the audience. Say goodbye to the audience. Again, thank you very much for watching the show, and I hope to see you next time. Be safe, and until then, peace out, everyone.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.